are looking at this 9b, if we are looking at this, there is only one out of the 5 that are all correct. So if we are looking at this, and in number 1, turn to 9b because I'm going to give you one of your answers on here. In number 1, you're looking at this and you're trying to decide if the person did it right or wrong. You're the teacher correcting it. And I've already told you that number 1 is wrong. So they rewrote the problem right down here, and we're looking at that problem that they rewrote. And you see a 3 over here in the denominator. Does that make sense if I have 1/3 that I'd have a 3 in the denominator? Yeah, that kind of makes sense. We have this 2y to the 0, and they put 2 times 1, and then they put x negative 3. Does that make sense? The 2, 1, and x negative 3 if I have 2y to the 0. What was their error? I heard someone say. What do you have?
That they times it wrong.
Wasn't
the 2 supposed to be a 1 instead?
The whole 2y, right, to the 0, that whole thing should be a 1. What they did was they kept the 2, and then they kind of said y to the 0 equals 1. So their mistake is, right, they said this is 2 times 1, and this is wrong, right? You can't do that. So, and then it says you're supposed to correct the answer. So you somehow need to tell me, you know what their error was? 2 to the y equals 0. They put 2 times 1. That's what was wrong. You then are going to go back to this problem, and then you need to correct it. So not in the problem, but behind it, the right answer should have been 1 over 3x to the 3rd. So each one of these is worth 2 points. Because if you tell me what's wrong and then you don't correct it the right way, I mean, you've lost the point, right? So it's 2 points for each one, and I'm handing this in, and when you hand this in, I'm kind of taking it as a grade out of 10. On your test next week, you will see a question like one of these, and what I do is I have 2 people's work, and I say, here's how one person did it, person A and person B. One of them did it wrong. What's their mistake? And I don't even finish solving the whole problem. I just go, you know what, this person started it this way, this one did it this way, what was their mistake? It's a 4-point question. I'm looking for you to tell me which person did it wrong, and then to make sure you explain it correctly. That has been a very big struggle for a lot of people, telling me the error. So do it on here. This is not due till the test day, so if you're doing these, like, ask questions on it. Mrs. Thompson, I think this, or this doesn't make sense. I will help you. I'm not going to give you the answer, but I'm going to ask you to look back at your rules and to look at some of the stuff, but you need to do that to be ready for this test, okay? I then want to look at your 1 through 10 that was for today. So, a little later in class, you're going to have a lot of time today to work. These first ones, you were just using the greater and less than. You were telling me which number. Here I should have seen multiplication, division. Yesterday, my hint on number 6 was that we were trying to find how many seconds, and your answer should be in so many seconds when I look at that. And my hint was that if you are finding time, time is equal to distance. Now, I had some people hand their worksheet in to me with this, distance divided by speed. And then they put their answer. Well, I have no clue how you got that, right? I mean, if you put this 0.76 seconds, which is the answer from the back, and you don't have how you got that, and if your numbers here don't make sense to get the right answer, you need to do the work with it. I had someone say, well, I'm not sure when I look at this, which one of these 2, and we talked about this yesterday, is distance. So I want you to think about this. If you wouldn't have had, if you're looking at this, and I wouldn't have 3 times 10 to that, if I wouldn't have it as a scientific notation. If I said you go 30 meters per second, or something is 30 meters long, which one is the distance? And I had people telling me meters per second is a distance. I cannot measure this in meters per second. That's how fast I walk or run. That is a speed, a rate. So you have to make sure you're understanding the vocabulary. Okay? So that one does come out And to me, when it comes out and you're writing it in scientific notation, it makes better sense to leave it as, because you have like 0.76 times 10 to the 0. You want to leave it as 0.76, okay? I want you to look at question number 7. Number 7 says, we have the country and then we have the population of a city. And it said, how many times as great? What operation are we talking about for how many times as great? We are talking division. And what you want to do is you want to take, in this case, the country. And someone said, oh, so I take country and divide it by cities, and then they wanted to put country here. And then they put city down here. And I said, yes. And then you have to put those two numbers in scientific notation, and then you have to do the work. And then you're going to put your answer as you are looking at that, okay? If you are looking at number 8, deer per square mile. Now we have one like this coming up on the test, and I'm going to be amazed at how many people are going to tell me mile per deer, square mile per deer. When you see that word per, you should be thinking right away division. Which should go first? What should go in my numerator if I am thinking about that, Devin? Deer or square miles? Number 8. Because of this phrase right here. Deer per square mile. Which one should go first in my numerator division?
Deer.
I need to have the number of deer. This is going to be the square miles. Let's convert both these to scientific notation. So our deer was already 1.05 times 10 to the, what power was yours? I can't see it up there. 10 to the 5th. How do we write 70,000 in scientific notation? What am I going to look at for that? Please, let's do that right now. 70,000 should be 7.0762 times 10 to what power? Should be to the 4th. Please on your calculator take it out and do this division. You're taking 1.05 and dividing it by 7.0762. .1485 we're going to go. Times, Elizabeth, what do I do with my exponents when I'm dividing? Do what? Minus. So I'm going to end up with 10 to the 1st. Now to me, when I look at this answer in scientific notation, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, what is 0.148 times 10 to the 1 deer per square mile? But if I say, and I write it in standard form, so on the test, I'm going to give you an option. There's some that are going to have really big and really small numbers. I definitely want those in scientific notation. But this one makes way better sense to say, you know what, there's about 1.4 or 1.5 deer per square mile. That means if I have 2 square miles, right, I have 3 deer. So if I'm thinking of a square mile, a mile by a mile, okay, and I have 2 of those together, I should have 3. There should be like 3 deer living in that. Now, granted, we know that there are some places where there's a ton more deer, and there are some places like around the city of Fargo that in a square mile, we don't have that many, except if you live over by the river, then you might, okay? But the rest of us in the city of Fargo don't have that many. So this makes way better sense. I will not mark this wrong on the test. I would let you write this. But you want to think, does it make sense, okay?
I've never saw a deer.
Haven't you?
No.
I have. Walk around, sometimes go up around the old Cardinal Mansions, and you have that used to be a bunch of deer.
I live
Alright.
right next to North. I've never saw a deer.
So let's take a look at the questions today that you're doing. We said we were crossing off number 12, right? And your number 12 was different from my old number 12, so I'm hoping you didn't block that one out totally.
Which one?
12.
What else to block out?
I want you to block out 13 is the one I don't care about.
So do you want us to?
So I want to show you 12. I want to show 12. Because there's one. I know, sorry. I'm so sorry.
You even said 12 again today.
I know.
What are you doing? Okay, well, my phone.
So, I want you to look up here. Okay? It says, there's an immense distance between celestial bodies that is measured in light years. The distance of a light year is what light can travel in 1 year. 1 light year is approximately, huge number, right? Miles. And it says a star is 8.5 light years from Earth. How many light years or how many miles is this? Should we multiply and subtract or divide? Add, subtract, multiply, divide.
Okay, are you sure it's like
This one, yes, I'm really sure.
divide? Wait, so should we erase? So we divide.
If you can erase what you crossed off and can still see it, that would be awesome. But if you can't, then I want you to think about this. Here is what we know, is that it is telling us, I'm going to write that number in scientific notation, 5.8 times 10 to the 3, 6, 9, 12, right? And that was in miles. And that was how many miles in what? In 1 light year. Please write it just like this. And if you need to write it down here because you have more room, do that. So, how many light years did it travel? Should I have the 8.5 light years in the numerator? Think what you're doing in science, or the denominator. You're canceling units right now in science. You're having to put those metrics in. As you do the conversions, you have to put them. So where should I put the word light years so that I can cancel it? On the top or on the bottom? I'm looking at this. What are you thinking? What do we want to think about that? Brooke, you have an idea? It has to be on the top. It has to be on the top because I want this unit light year to cancel with this unit light year. And what we know is that it was 8.5. And the most confusing thing for this one is people want to not multiply this, they want to divide. Because they think of those units. And just like in Mr. Olson's class, you're canceling the units. You have to show this work. You have to show the unit canceling. So that now we get our answer, and you should be multiplying that one, and take a look at that. And the reason I really wanted to talk about that one, and kind of like number 18 that we're going to look at, and number 16, is because people get confused what operation. So I want you right now to read through 16 and 18 and trying to decide right next to it, what are you doing for the part B in number 18 and what operation for 16? Just read them right now and think, because we're going to look at those too. Because these come up on the test, I need to make sure you're understanding them. So read through those and see which one you're going to put. Talk to your shoulder partner. I think we should do this because it says this phrase. You guys talk to make sure Jordan too.
Yeah. For which one are we working on?
No,
you put 16. Which one are we working on?
16 and 18, decide.
No. How would we decide? Well, like what I'm saying, like what
There's no tangent help.
I thought it would be addition. Sophie, it says per. For 16? Yeah, it says per. So it'd be division.
This one, it says last year this trucking company had 0.7 million tons of goods. The average value of them is this much per ton. What is going to be our total value? And then this one is trying to ask us how many times the distance in light years. So, 16. Add, subtract, multiply, divide.
Or 17.
It's up above. Wait. Divide. Oh. It is not divide. What do you think this is? Multiplication. Here's what I want you to think. this is, again, we want to put the units. So what does 7.7 million tons look like? Well, just know if you had a million, that would look like this, right? We know that's a million. So 0.7 million looks like how many thousand? 700,000, okay? What does that look like in scientific notation? That would be 7 times 10 to the 5th, and this is tons. Write that word with it. 7.5 times 10 to the 5th tons. And then it tells us, and the reason it's multiplication is because we're taking this dollar value, which is $17,500 per ton. Now, someone said, oh, so the problem automatically is division because there's a per in it. This is telling us kind of like a rate, right? $1,750 per 1 ton. If we look at our units now, the unit ton cancels with ton, and it is simply a multiplication, and our answer is in dollars now. And that's what we were looking for. So you gotta be really careful as you read these and making sure you're understanding. How about 18? Was 18 add, subtract, multiply, or divide? How many times? Anyone have an idea? Think they got it? Robin, you think? It is a division. We are going to take, and in this case, it says how many times the distance of a light year is away from Earth. So when we are looking at this, we are saying that a certain star, in this case, if we look at this, is going to be 5.2 times, that's our light year. So first, make sure you do part A, that you write them both numbers out in standard form, right? Write them out in decimal or standard form. So you need to rewrite both of those there. And then part B is the one where we are going to take the light year, the 5.2 times 10 to the 13, and we're dividing it by approximately 1 light year. Because this is how many light years that celestial body is away from Earth. Okay, so that was the distance, and this is the light year down here. Okay, how much a light year is. Okay, so that was the distance. So I think that should take care of the question. So, I know we crossed off, did we cross off this one, the 24?
Yep.
No.
We can though.
You can cross off 24 as a better one. See, I had my old worksheet, and 25 is actually a really good one, like one you're going to see on the test.
Bro, do you see what
I know, I'm so sorry. I told you I'm sorry. But can you still read it? Yes. Okay? My hint would be, I would try and do that one. 24, and we did cross off 23, right?
Just leave it crossed off.
This one, I am not gonna take it for points, but if you are trying to make sure for ones that you're gonna see on the test, you're probably gonna see this one on the test.
We just
So, here's what I would like you to do for the rest of